Good evening, greetings from the Institute of Global Professional IGP. Greetings from the Institute of Global Professional IGP. Thank you all for joining us and staying with us till the end. Honorable Knowledge Seeker, today I'm your host for the evening. My name is Badun Das. I'm from Bangladesh. Dear Knowledge Seeker, I'm proud to be associated with IGP. IGP is a social and certified international educational and training institute. In last 3 years, we already served 35 million plus knowledge seekers from 100 plus countries. IGP is internationally recognized and globally accredited. We are connected to more than 450 plus professional and 4,500 plus organizations. Institute of Global Professional is an education institute that provides social work globally recognized and reportable. We serve student and community resource providing holistic social work and education. We believe that it's not effective to increase one skill just backward in formal education. So we provide effective translation to generate proficient generation all over the world. We distribute our services locally, nationally, internationally to students, job seeker, job holder, and also for learner, the respective campus location and distance learning platform. We are an occupational and dependable institute. IGP is one of the famous online institutes from all over the world. Our vision is education is not a business product, it's a part of our human rights. Based on our vision, we are trying to reach all corners of the world for free webinars, seminar, courses, award, quiz competition, mentoring, and counseling, etc. On the other side, we are also trying to offer more than 100 premium services for free, like create own portfolio website, resume builder, cover letter, motivation letter, and warm knowledge platform for gathering general knowledge which can update all day. These learning website, free course, converse sites, and many more will help empower you to learn to meet their expectation and dream and become highly skilled people. We implement several training program, webinar, and offline online courses for you, the learner, trainer, speaker, and coaches. Our sessions are conducted by globally renowned professionals to develop all kind of youth and to promote the education of their abilities and personality. Spreading knowledge is crucial for the street of global professionals. We believe that knowledge is love, light, and vision. So we try to understand the needs of today's generation and we serve them with good research and practice method. We must have a genuine concern for the learner represent more diversity, growth, and innovation are required to lead a session with professionalism, passion, and integrity. IGP members are committed to offering effective best quality service and improvement so that individuals who seek information can improve their skill level and hello. Before we move to the next, let me remind, don't forget to share, tag, and mention your friend in the comment box. Your support is very valuable for us. Thank you. Before we move to the next, let me remind, don't forget to share, tag, and mention your friend in the comment box. Your support is very valuable for us. Thank you. Moving to the next, with your continuous support, you already completed 2049 webinars successfully. Moving to the next, with your continuous support, you already completed 2049 webinars successfully. Dear IGP speaker, participant, and well-wisher, at this moment, this is a very important message for you all. We change and design our website www.eduigp.com. On this website, you have surprise for everyone. Hope you will be benefited. We already launched our new website where you can find all our previous activities together with lots of new features. But one strong point is that without a link or login, you cannot enjoy ourselves. So create your account for once with proper information. Note that with proper information, you'll enjoy our feature with mismatched data. You cannot do anything here. From now, you have to participate in live quiz competition on our website. We replace slide. You have to join directly on our website. Now you can check all of our previous webinars with verified e-certificate. Now it's easier and time-oriented because after the session, we will not provide you any course certification. You have to take part in one exam. After that, if you pass, you will receive your certificate. Otherwise, not. But you can take part in an exam unlimited till you pass. If you are an IGP speaker, you can download all your previous certificate, speakership certificate. If you are a host of IGP, you can download a certificate of gratitude. If you are an online live quiz competition winner, you can download a certificate of participation. If you are selected for a lifetime membership, then you can download a certificate of lifetime membership easily. Besides this, if you participate function which organize combined support with IGP, you can download that also. You can still prepare and download 18 types of certificate from our website within a minute. Certificate of Global Professional Membership, Certificate of Global Inclusive in the Pandemic, Certificate of Active Knowledge Seeker, Certificate of Social Activities in the Pandemic, Certificate of Achievement IGP Knowledge Seeker 2020, 2021 and 2022, Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 1, Authentic Assessment in Teaching and Learning, Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 2, Teaching with Help Foreign Language and Assessment, Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 3, Digital Classroom Engagement Tools, Certificate of Participation Webinar Series for the New Trend in Education, Certificate of Participation Webinar Leadership and Managerial Skills, Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 6, Trend and Innovation in Mathematics Education, Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 7, Research and Comprehension Approach, Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 8, Art in Teaching Special, the art, Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 9, 21st Century Tool in Teaching Mathematics, Certificate of IGP Corporate Ambassador, Certificate of download within a minute. From now on, you can certificate. Teaching tips for teacher, health tips for parents, health tips for teens, education tools for teachers. You can join IGP alumni. You can check out our previous premium services website for free and many more. Dear IGP well-wisher, we promised previously, but lack of technical problem, we are losing time. This is a great opportunity to collect your previous condition. We solve all issue from our website. Now you can enroll, reset password, everything. You can check your email for all webinar details. It's a cordial request to check all button and pages on our website. Should like and still benefit. Thank you, but note that without an account or logged in, you cannot enjoy our service. At present, we are going to start our 2050 webinar, which name is Introduction to Language and Linguistics. And today our speaker's name is Dr. Amitabh Bikram Devadi. He is from India. Before I hand over the stage to our speaker, sir, I'll share a very little bit about him. University faculty, Sri Mata Vaishnadevi University, author, researcher. Now, very important moment for me to invite our speaker to IGP with his presentation. Now, very important moment for me to invite our speaker to IGP with his presentation. Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Sir, please present your presentation.
Fine. Okay. So, welcome all the participants who have joined me here. And today I will talk about introduction to language and linguistics. So, this will be our topic for today's presentation. And since it is an introduction, so I will talk on these two topics at the surface level, and I will try to make it very simple and not to go into the complexity. So, when we talk about language and linguistics, then we need to understand that language is human, and many times we say that language is a gift to human being. But how to study this language, how to study this gift to human being, that we generally study in linguistics. So, when we try to look at this word linguistics and we try to understand the word formation of linguistics, then we find that there are certain words which are associated with linguistics. So we have one such word is linguist, a word lingua, and linguistic and linguistics. So starting from lingua, lingua is tongue in Italian language. And when we talk about language, then we also remember that we have a mother tongue, we have a second language that is also known as L2, and mother tongue is generally known as L1. So, linguist is a person who studies languages scientifically, that is one definition. But at the same time, a linguist is also a person who knows more than one language. So, many countries are multilingual or bilingual, unlike US and European countries. So, another meaning of linguist is someone who is a polyglot, a person who speaks more than one language. But this meaning is not that important for us because for us, what is important is the second meaning, the meaning that a linguist is a person who studies language scientifically. That meaning is more important. Then we also have a word, as you can see, linguistic, and linguistic is an adjective, and generally we use like a linguistic survey, linguistic area, linguistic analysis. So, for that purpose, we generally use this word linguistic. And linguistics is basically a discipline, a field of study, and how we will define linguistics. So, there are several definitions through which we can define linguistics. So, linguistics is a scientific study of language, that is a one sentence definition, or we can say linguistic is language science, a two-word definition. We can also say linguistic is the science of language, three-word definition. So, we have various ways through which we can define linguistics, but all these definitions they indicate one thing, that someone who is a student of linguistics, that person studies a language scientifically. We will come to that point, that what do we mean by science, or what do we mean by studying something scientifically. So here on your screen you can again see a reference from Oxford Advanced Learner Dictionary of Current English, and again the two meanings of the word linguist has been defined. So the meaning number one indicates, when we say she is an excellent linguist, or when you say like I'm afraid I'm no linguist, then the meaning is a polyglot. We are talking about a person who speaks more than one language. But meaning two, a person who studies language or linguistics, that is more important for us, particularly when we study linguistics. So we know that what is language, and we say that language is a gift to human beings. So we are indicating to the fact that language is uniquely human, and it is only human beings that they use language, and they are different from animals. So animals, they do not have language, but they communicate. So it is not the case that animals can't communicate. They can communicate, but they communicate using gestures, they communicate using certain sounds, they communicate using their body. But that is not language. So human beings, they communicate through language. So that is the difference that we need to understand. And for that matter, we say that human language is uniquely human capacity. So now, a viewpoint by Matthews states that from a linguist viewpoint, Homo sapiens, the rational or knowing species, is above all Homo equens, the talking species. So we call ourselves Homo sapiens. That means like we are rational, we are knowing species, and we know how to use language. That's more important. So these are the definitions that I have discussed. So any one definition you can pick, and any one definition you can remember, because all these three definitions, they indicate one thing, they define linguistics. But generally it is advisable that one should go for the one sentence definition. Now further, there is a word, not a problematic word, but a word, as I said, the science. Now what do I mean by when I say science, or when I say linguistics is a scientific study of a language? So here in this slide, we deals with the meaning of science, and here the meaning of science is different from the scientific fields that we have, like statistics, mathematics, and physics. Because in these fields, we require some laboratory, we require some tools, let's say a beaker, a test tube, a microscope. But when we say linguistic is a scientific study of language, generally we are not talking about these laboratories, because these laboratories are actually not required. But what is required then? Objectivity is required. We need to observe, we need to study a particular language from an objective point of view, not the subjective point of view. So you might have witnessed answering objective type questions where you have four options and only one is correct. So that one is correct for all. It is not the case like A is writing uh, A correct, B is writing C option correct. No, only one option is correct, and that is correct for all. Otherwise, all options are wrong. So that type of objectivity we need when we study linguistics. So let's say in a language there is a sound, per sound, that is there. So first thing is, per sound in English is not different from per sound in Bangla, or per sound in Hindi, or per sound in French. So per remains same. Like a per is a bilabial sound, a per is a plosive sound, per is a voiceless sound. So that objectivity we need when we study linguistics, and for that particular reason we say that linguistic is the scientific study of language. And Geoffrey Finch once said that linguistics is not a science. So here it means like it is not a science as a hardcore science like mathematics, physics, chemistry. So it is a science in terms of studying a language or a linguistic aspect scientifically. So what do we do in linguistics? So generally, in a linguistics, we study three things, particularly when we talk about core linguistics. So we talk about language form. So in core linguistics, we study language form, and sometimes we also study language meaning. So language form, and what is the meaning of language form, that how language is structured. So we study phonetics and phonology, we study sounds that are there and how these sounds combine and make a meaningful word. So for example, there is a sound like a p, and there is a sound like a, and there is a sound like n. So when we combine these sounds p, a, n, and when we say it fast, then it becomes pan. So that pan is actually what? It is like a permissible combination in English language, that p, a, n can combine together and make a word. And when we change the order of this, and when we say na will comes first, a second, and per last, nap. So nap will become a different word. So when we have only these three sounds, na, a, per, or per, a, na, we can have only these two combinations. We cannot have any other combination, particularly if we have only these three sounds. So each language has some permissible combinations, and those permissible combinations are allowed and other combinations are not allowed. So that we study in phonology. And phonetics is the general study of human sounds. Morphology is the study of how the words are formed, to study the internal structure of word. And syntax is a study of how words combine together and make words. Semantics is the study of language meaning, and pragmatic is the study of the use of language in particular context. So context is important in pragmatics, but pragmatics does not fall under the core study of linguistics, because when we talk about core study of linguistics, then we are actually talking about the language form, how language is structured. And when we try to find out the answer of this question, how language is structured, then definitely we need to deal with phonology, morphology, and syntax. So coming to pragmatics is like a student coming to the class late, half an hour late, and the teacher says good morning. Then the meaning of good morning depends upon the context. It does not mean that teacher is greeting the student good morning, but teacher is indicating to the fact that you are late today. So that's basically the pragmatics. Or generally when we have different, let's say a road sign. A road sign has a significance when it is posted alongside the road. And if someone brings that road sign at his or her home, then the road sign has lost its significance. So language has some meaning, but that meaning is associated, or this meaning language gets particularly in some context that we study. So again, as you can see here, we have core branches of linguistics, as you can see, and we have again some other branches that are periphery, not the core branches, but they are known as the periphery branches of linguistics. So that is basically the difference in linguistics. So here you can see phonetics and the definition of like phonetics, speech sounds in general. Then phonology, and the definition is given, sound systems of languages. Morphology, syntax, semantics. So these are basically the branches. And here expanding the core will become the periphery. Periphery, that is not central. So what do we have, like pragmatics, social linguistics, or other interdisciplinary approach? So interdisciplinary means like in between two disciplines. So we have anthropology and linguistics, then we have anthropological linguistics. When we have biology and linguistics, then we have biolinguistics. When we have medicine and linguistics, then we have clinical linguistics. Similarly, we have philosophical linguistics, and ethnology and linguistics makes ethnolinguistics. So these are interdisciplinary approach. But if you want to study the periphery, or if you want to study these interdisciplinary approaches, first you need to master the core. So without mastering the core, without knowing the core, you cannot understand the periphery. You cannot understand the interdisciplinary approach. Similarly, you have applied linguistics, popularly known as English language teaching (ELT) uh, in in like Asian countries. So in applied linguistics, generally we study language related problems. We study language skills like LSRW, vocabulary skills. Fine. We study language policy, and we also study sometimes like language acquisition, second language acquisition. Then we have corpus linguistics, where database. So one such database is like BNC, British National Corpus. So this corpus has 1.6 billion words. So a very huge database. And databases are important because once we study, or once we try to find out the meaning of a particular word in particular context, then we require databases. Or once we are compiling a dictionary, then also the databases are quite important. But what do you find in those databases? You actually find the actual use. So actual use in the form of written, or in the form of the recorded one, that you actually find. So as I said, like the problematic thing is this words scientific. So what do we mean by this word scientific that we need to look at? So as I said, like scientific here means like maintaining the objectivity, and how we can maintain this objectivity. That is basically the real thing. That is basically the real problem, that how we can maintain this objectivity. So we can maintain this objectivity through these steps. First, we need to observe the language. So observing the language is the first step. Second, you need to form a hypothesis. Hypothesis is a guess. Hypothesis is informed guess that you need to make, and you need to test that hypothesis. By the way, hypothesis is a formal statement about anything, and if it requires any modification, then you need to modify it or refine it. I'll give you one example, that how a linguist mind works. So let's say a linguist who is working on English language, and I hope all of you know English very well. So that's why I have selected the data from the English language. So you can see there are two phrases here, two noun phrases: a good man and a dead tree. So I am observing, and I have only these two sentences. So as a linguist, I am working on a language, and this language is English language, and I encounter, I observe these two sentences, these two phrases, noun phrase. Now I need to form a hypothesis based on only these two noun phrase. Then how can I form a hypothesis? So looking at the data, language data, I will say that adjective always precedes noun. So they are coming before the noun. So I can form this hypothesis. But when I observe more data, so let's say when I see the sentence, the man is good, the tree is dead, then I realize that okay, adjective here, they are not preceding noun, but they are following the verb is, or even they are following the noun. That's that way. So what I need to do, I need to, so first I have formed the hypothesis, and now I am testing my hypothesis, and I find that my hypothesis is wrong. My hypothesis is not correct. I need to refine it. I need to modify it. So what I have noticed that adjectives do not precede the nouns they modify. And when I observe other data, life, everlasting, now everlasting is again an adjective, and it is like following noun, not preceding it. Mission Impossible, the famous movie, you might have watched it. Then again, like impossible is an adjective and mission is the noun. Again, the adjective is not preceding it but following it. So there is a problem. So we have tested the hypothesis and we realize that our hypothesis is not correct. We need to refine it. So how can we refine it? So we will refine it by just modifying it. So what is the way to modify it? So what we will say, adjectives in English are used in two main ways. So now this is a process of refining. So we will say like adjectives can be used attributively, that means before noun, and predicatively, that means following a verb. And then we can also say that there are a finite number of borrowed adjectives. They follow the noun, they modify. So that is like the three-way adjectives are used. So this is the meaning of science. This is the meaning of scientific here. When we define linguistics, that linguistic is the scientific study of language. We need to deal with the data with a scientific approach. We need to deal with the data objectively, whether the data is from Bangla language or from Filipino, from Hindi, from French, or from any Bantu languages spoken in Africa. So that thing we need to maintain. Now, we all know that human beings, they are gifted with a language. Now, when we try to understand how this entire thing comes into being, that means like how do we speak? For example, I am speaking for past half an hour. What am I doing actually? I am just producing sound waves. So you are hearing some sound, but you recognize these sounds as speech sound. And further, you recognize these speech sounds that they are words or phrases or sentences. And these words, phrases, and sentences are actually understood as the meaningful thoughts and ideas. So, in a way, we can say that human mind, where this language is located in the left hemisphere, is actually a sophisticated translating machine. So, this metaphor, this machine metaphor, or this translating machine metaphor very well suits the human mind, because it looks as if a very simple thing is happening, that someone is speaking, we are hearing, but actually the sound waves are translated, recognized, and understood as meaningful thoughts and ideas. So it is basically a very complex process. Once you study psycholinguistics, then you will realize that this process that we do not give any notice, any attention to, it's like very really complex process. So this is basically the language and linguistics, the introductory thing. But we also need to understand that are certain concepts which are associated with linguistics, and particularly I'll be discussing few concepts by the founder of modern linguistics. And who is this founder of modern linguistics? That is Ferdinand de Saussure, and some people also call him the father of modern linguistics. So, one such concept posited by Ferdinand de Saussure in his book Course in General Linguistics, published in 1916, and he says that language is a psychological property of human being. Now, psychological here means something that is related to mind. Now, when he says that language is a psychological property of human beings, that means language is situated in mind. And we have already seen in the previous slide that why human mind is called a sophisticated translating machine. But at the same time, he also said three important things. And if we want to encapsulate his philosophy of language, then we can say that he said that language is a system of systems. That means like in a language there are systems, like phonetics and phonology is one system, morphology is another system, syntax is another system. So you have a system inside system, smaller systems responsible for bigger systems. Then language is a system of differences. So in place of saying pin, and if I say bin, so it in place of making the sound p, I make the sound b. So pin has a different meaning and bin has a different meaning. So language is a system of differences. When we change per sound into b, by the way, there is not much difference between p and b sound, because p and b sound are both bilabial, p and b sound are both plosive, but there is only one difference, that p sound is voiceless and b sound is voiced. And the third important thing, what Sasur said, that relationship between signifier and signified is arbitrary. Arbitrary means like it is conventional. Dog is a dog. It is not the case that it has something to do with the sound d and it has something to do with the sound g. But we all agree that dog, letter dog or sound d or g will be recognized as a four-legged canine animal that can be domesticated. So this relationship between signifier and signified is arbitrary, and both signifier and signified, they are mental entities. That means like they remain in the mind. So signifiers, some linguists they consider signifying signifier as a physical form. But according to Fanirandi Saussure, the initial meaning of signifier, the real meaning of signifier, that it is also a mental entity like signified. So signified is a concept generally we have. Another important thing posited by Fanirandi Saussure, and that thing is a sign. So sign has two sides, like a signifier and signified. So you can understand sign as a morpheme or sign as a word if you do not know the concept of morpheme. So when I say a word, then the form of that word is also important and the concept that is associated with that word is also important. So when I say dog, then dog letters are also important, d o g sound is also important, and the concept that is associated with dog, that is also important. So one thing is signifier, the form is the signifier, either it is spoken or written, and the concept that is associated with it, that is the signified. So in a language we have many signs, sign 1, sign 2, sign 3, and when they interact with each other, then we have a meaningful interaction. So what Saussure says, that everything depends upon relations. He talks about language, that language relations are important, and the relationship between sign, that is important. And when we test this thing in our day-to-day life, then we can also say that our like our friends are important for us, our spouse are important for us, then uh, the friends are important for us, children are important for us. So in a society also we can say that relations are important. So everything depends upon relation. But Sashu talks about language relations, so we will focus only on the language relation. And another thing Sashu said, like signifier and signified are two sides of a piece of a paper. So if I ask you how will you define a piece of paper, then definitely you will say a piece of paper is a paper because it has two sides. And similarly, a sign is a sign because it has signifier and signified. So here this is the image of signifier and signified, and both are psychological entity. That's why they are in the bubble. So this bubble indicates that both are psychological entity. You might have seen these images earlier in your childhood when you were reading some comic books where someone a character is thinking about something and these bubbles are there. So these bubbles actually indicate that both are psychological entity. You can see the image of a tree, so that is the concept, that is the signified, and you can see the tree that is written TREE, or the sound T, R, and E, that is basically the signifier. Then another important thing said by Faninandi Saussure, that is the dichotomy between diachronic and synchronic. So here one thing is common. The chronos is common between these two words, and the meaning of chrono is time. So what is diachronic? Diachronic means across time, and synchronic means with time or single point of time. So you can study a language diachronically as well as synchronically. That means like these are two approaches through which you can look at a particular language. So what type of language study nowadays linguists are doing? So linguists are nowadays doing synchronic study of a language, and synchronic here means that a single point of time. They study language single point of time. That means like they are not comparing language spoken in two different era, two different periods. So nowadays, like linguists, they are not comparing the language spoken in Chaucerian time and the today's one, or they are not comparing the language that is spoken during the Shakespearean time and the present one. Instead, what they are doing, they are simply doing the study how language is at a present moment that they are doing. So that type of studies basically nowadays linguists are doing. And but previously, 100 years back, 200 years back, linguists generally they used to do language study diachronically, and there was a subject that was very much popular during that time known as philology or historical linguistics. So historical linguistics is still a field people are doing, but philology, that means like comparing two languages and trying to find out which one is the oldest language or from which language all the other languages have been derived. But linguists are least bother about that argument, and they are independently working synchronically. Then there are other dichotomies like descriptive and prescriptive. Descriptive deals with describing a language, and prescriptive deals with like writing rules and instruction of a particular language. So most of the traditional grammar books, they are prescriptive in nature rather than descriptive. So descriptive is what is said actually and not what they think ought to be said. So prescriptive approach deals with language like a language police, like do not use this word, this is a bad word, do not use this expression, this is ungrammatical. But descriptive means like if even the ungrammatical uh, expression is used by the speaker, that is very much fine. For example, when you look at New Zealand English, then YOU is singular and YOUS is plural in New Zealand English. Now you can find like this variation. Or ain't for haven't, hasn't, isn't, aren't, wasn't, an ain't expression is there. So a descriptive linguist will not say that this is a bad English or this is a bad usage. They will simply list it as a variation or an instance of the language use. So further, we have the dichotomy of form and function. So form deals with the language system, how language is structured, how language is as a system in our brain. And particularly when we talk about the formal linguistics, then the name Noam Chomsky comes into our mind, and his book Syntactic Structure is very much popular, published in 1957. And when we talk about the functional linguistics, that means the language use, then M.A.K. Halliday, functional linguistics comes into our mind. And there is a book titled Cohesion in English, published in 1973 by Ruqayya Hassan and M.A.K. Halliday, that also comes into our mind. So that is again a dichotomy, again approach how we deal with linguistics. So form and function, like in form we study like word classes, phrases, clauses, but in function we try to find out like what is an NP. So NP can be a subject. What is a VP? VP can be a predicator. Again, like an NP can be an object also. So that way, form and function, they are different. So for example, again, you can see the form for function operation in these two sentences. The boy kissed the girl. So a formal approach deals like boy is NP and kissed the girl is VP, where kissed is V and again the girl is again an NP. But a functional approach deals with like boy is doing the kissing. That means boy is the subject, whereas boy is being kissed. In so it is like in the second one it is the object. So that way again the same thing you can see here, like main clause, noun phrase, verb phrase, noun phrase, this formal, and last one is the function like subject, predicator, and the object. So that way these two are different. Then one more dichotomy is comparative and the language specific, like whether you are studying one language or many. So when you compare many languages, then it is comparative. Fine. But when you study only one language, particularly in the field of English language teaching or any other language teaching, or simply you are studying formal linguistics, then again you are just dealing with one language. But as a typologist, when you are documenting languages, or when you are dealing with language variation, or whether you are a social linguist, then definitely you need to go for many language data. Then another dichotomy is empirical or introspective. So formal linguistics is introspective. Uh, it works on the intuitions of formal linguist, whereas empirical is like social linguistics is empirical, psycholinguistics is empirical. So they use like statistical method. Corpus linguistics is also empirical, and there is like one corpus corpus of global web based English with 1.9 billion words. So previously I also mentioned like BNC, British National Corpora, that is like 1.6 billion. So this one is larger than the BNC one. So that is also one dichotomy. Then there are certain language fallacies that we need to deal with. So what are language fallacies? Fallacies are actually language myths. So we said like a linguist studies language objectively, and but there are some myths, and the myths are like some false statement, and they are generally misconception, and they remain in the mind of a layman. So layman says like some languages are advanced. So it is not the case. Like culture can be advanced, technology can be advanced, but all languages are equal in its complexity. If we want to talk about, some people say like some languages are beautiful, generally they have this misconception for their own language, because generally when they talk about their own mother tongue, then generally they say like my mother tongue is the most beautiful language. So there is no harm in saying this thing, but as a linguist you will not make such type of a statement, or you will not say like only my language is the best language in the world. You will treat all languages equal, with equal respect. Some languages are primitive. Again, this is a fallacy, because certain cultures are advanced or primitive, but not the languages. And when we say some languages have grammar, again that is a fallacy, because all languages have grammar, and that grammar is different. Like English has subject verb object, so we can say John loves Mary, but in Hindi we want to say, so we will say like John Mary se pyar karta hai. So we will say like subject object and verb. So in many languages, like verb come in the last, particularly the languages that are spoken in South Asia and Asia, the verb comes in the last. But in European languages, like we have subject, verb, and object scheme. Some languages they have the verb first language. So this type of variation we can find, but generally we do not deal with these. These are fallacies, false statement. We do not uh, pay much attention to them. So generally, like someone who is studying linguistics, then in the introductory chapter, generally these fallacies are mentioned, so that a person can develop an objective mind and can have an objective study. So thank you all for your patient listening, and this is all from my side. And if you have any question or any observation, you can ask, you can raise. I'll be happy to answer that. Over to moderator.
Thank you so much, sir, for a rich content presentation which can impact our knowledge seeker surely. After your presentation, I hope our knowledge seeker can learn something new, which was our only intention. Learn and grow together, IGP knowledge seeker. Once again, thank you so much, sir, for your presentation. Now, sir, it's time for our question answer session, which is the one more valuable part of our regular pattern. Honorable sir, please stay with us. After a short video, we will back in our session part 2, which is the question answer part. Dear IGP knowledge seeker, please ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After question answer, we have a webinar certification and online quiz competition. Dear IGP knowledge seeker, please ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After question answer, we have a webinar certification and online quiz competition. participant, dear IGP knowledge seeker, please ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After question answer, we have a webinar certification and online quiz competition. Dear IGP knowledge seeker, please ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After question answer, we have a webinar certification and online quiz competition. So our first question is from Liutim. What sorts of problem develop when language doesn't work as it should, such as in various language disorders?
Okay, your question is from the psycholinguistics, because generally in psycholinguistics we study language disorders. So there are different type of disorders based on like certain language disorders. They are also known as impairment. So language impairment, aphasia is like different type. Like dyslexia is one such type of. So what sort of problems develop? So it depends upon like what type of aphasia, what type of disorder you have. So it depends upon, like we have very two popular aphasia like Broca and Wernicke aphasia. So these are named after two scientists. One is like Paul Broca and Carl Wernicke, because they discovered these language areas responsible. Basically, these two areas you can find on the um, just above the left ear. Uh, so these two aphasia, they are associated, like Wernicke's aphasia is associated with the comprehension problem, and the Broca area is associated with the production one. So that way, different type of aphasia. There, dyslexia is like reading disorder is known as dyslexia, and there is a very famous movie related to dyslexia. It was released few years back. And starred by Amir Khan, Tare Zameen Par. So there is a case of dyslexia there. So dyslexia is another type of disorder. So you can have ear impairment. Another type of impairment depends upon the brain mapping (MRI). So generally, someone who is studying these impairment, that person needs to work closely with the with a doctor, particularly a brain surgeon who can read MRI, or radiologist who can study. So that way you will realize. So independently, as a linguist, as a psycholinguist, you cannot identify, but you can help. Once you identify that the problem is in the production, problem in the perception, that means listening problem, production, that means speaking problem. Dyslexia is associated with reading problem. So eye movements, so that things are there. So these are various language disorder that we have. So as a psycholinguist, you need to work closely with those scientists, those radiologists, those doctors, and then you can identify first the problem, and then you can prepare lesson plans accordingly. Some drills uh, that can help the particular patient. So there is a possibility that the grammatical inflection is intact. That means like ing form, running, es, they are intact, but the problem is there in the numbers, like 1 2 3 4. So this order has been broken. So that type of thing is there. So you need to first identify, and then accordingly you plan. So it is like a very systematic process, and you need to sit with the patient, with the doctor, and then you need to plan. So I hope I have answered your question.
Thank you so much, sir, for your answers. Our next question is from Liutim. How does language related to other facts of culture and society?
The language use is not in isolation. We use any language, particularly in society. We use language with people, and when we use this language, and when we create some literature, then that reflects the culture of that particular language speakers. So culture is a term generally we do not use so frequent in linguistics, because it is related to anthropology. But society is a term that we generally use when we talk about language and society, that interdisciplinary field known as sociolinguistics. So you can have like how the let's say working class British English is different from Afro American British English. Fine. So that way, like two Englishes, and they have different features. For example, in Africo American English, generally they do not use this present tense third person singular marker s with the verb. So we say like John loves Mary. So John is a singular third person, and we say loves. We use s. But generally, that is a feature of American Afro American English, that they generally drop this s. So they say John love Mary. So that type of thing is related to that particular society. So similarly, previously, as I said, like New Zealand, in New Zealand, like the you in New Zealand English, the plural of you is use, y-o-u-s. So for example, you talk about Scotland English, the spoken in Scotland. So in place of saying that, t-h-a-t, that, they will say yon, y-o-n. Fine. Or in place of saying you, they still say the, the, or ye. So these are actually the language features. So when someone uses this, like, so you can, so there is a famous poem by Wordsworth. You might have read that poem, The Solitary Reaper. And what and how it starts? It starts with like, behold, the single in the field yawns solitary highland lass. So this Y-O and yawn. Yawn is again that Scottish English that we have. So yawn means like that solitary reaper, Highland lass, and the Wordsworth had used the word lass, Lass. So lass is again a very specific vocabulary item used in Scottish English. In standard British English, we will say girl, or we will say lady, or we will say woman. But here, Wordsworth has used the term lass. So that way, language relate to other facets of culture and society. I hope I have answered your question.
Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. Sir, there is no more questions from our participants. So once again, thank you so much, sir, for your time in IGP. We have learned a lot from you with new topic. It will add some value to our day-to-day activity along with our academic and professional growth. Honorable sir, hope to see you again with a new topic and a new rate. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Honorable sir, before I move to the next, if you want to leave, dear IGP Knowledge Seeker, it's time for the webinar certification process, the most attractive and powerful part of our regular webinar. After a short video, we will start our webinar certification. After webinar certification, we have an online quiz competition and quiz certification. Dear IGP Knowledge Seeker, it's time for the webinar certification process, the most attractive and powerful part of our regular webinar. After a short video, we will start our webinar certification. After webinar certification, we have an online quiz competition and quiz certification. Certification process. Visit www.edioigp.com. Please make sure your presence on our website. Find a learning session and get enrolled. After watching Combining Part 1, move to the next with the learning test. Passing mark 80%. If passed, back to the course again to download your certificate. If failed to retake the quiz, download your certificate in PDF or JPG. For your attention, I am going to share the procedure again. Visit www.edioigp.com. Please make sure your presence on our website. Find a learning session and get enrolled. After watching Combining Part 1, move to the next with the learning test. Back to the course again to download your certificate. If failed to retake the quiz, download your certificate in PDF or JPG. Dear IGP Knowledge Seeker, the IGP Knowledge Seeker is time for the most engaging part of this webinar, which is an online quiz competition, which is our regular webinar activity. We change a few process for online quiz competition. Note that after life, no one can participate. Now, time for the online quiz competition. To join the online quiz competition properly, please follow my instruction carefully. Now, time for the online quiz competition. To join the online quiz competition properly, please follow my instruction carefully. Visit www.eduigp.com and sign up or sign in. Without this, you cannot join live quiz competition anymore. Browse the live quiz button or given link, find the station name and join with your logged website or user account. Click join and wait for a few minutes for others to join. Enjoy online live quiz competition. After the quiz, we will issue certificate for top 10 as previously, which you can find on official Facebook page and group Institute of Global Profession. After a short video, we will start our quiz session. With 19 people, we are going to start our quiz session right now. Our first question is, storybook can provide an ideal introduction to the foreign language because is it option 1 and option 2? Option 2 is the right answer. 93% people are right here. Our second question is, introduction of a word from one language to another. Is it option 1 or option 2? Option 1 is the right answer. 64% people are right here. Our next question is, linguistic is to language as is with option 1 or option 2? Option 2 is the right answer. 93% people are right here. Our next question is, language is basic to the interaction of people and society. Is it true or false? Option 1 is the right answer. 100% people are right. Our next question is, an introduction to language was realized in 1982. Is it option 1 or option 2? Option 2 is the right answer. 43% people are right here. Our next question is, the introduction of the French language to Canada indicates, is it option 1 or option 2? Option 2 is the right answer. 79% people are right here. Our next question is, in a language analysis introduction, I need to, is it option 1 or option 2? Option 2 is the right answer. 86% people are right here. Next question is second language used for 100 coursework leading to a dual introduction of first language. Is it option 1 or option 2? Option 1 is the right answer. 75% people are right here. Second last question of the session is write the introduction of the French language, the English language from irreparable change. Is it true or false? Option 1 is the right answer. 93% people are right here. Last and final question of the session is this course is to introduce the language of film as. Is it option 1 or option 2? Option 2 is the right answer. 57% people are right here. Congratulations to our online quiz competition in the top 10. Congratulations again. We will take a few minutes for finalizing the result. After that, we will issue our online quiz competence certificate on official Facebook page and group Institute of Global Professional. Congratulations to our online quiz competition in the top 10. Congratulations again. We will take a few minutes for finalizing the result. After that, we will issue our online quiz competence certificate on official Facebook page and group Institute of Global Professional. Congratulations to our online quiz competition in the top 10. Congratulations again. We will take a few minutes for finalizing the result. After that, we will issue our online quiz competence certificate on official Facebook page and group Institute of Global Professional. At the end of our session, we can say properly feed your skill. Never stop learning, cause life never stop teaching us. Be happy, stay safe, see you again and again. We want your participation in every program. If you want to live a happy life, try to a goal, not people or things, Albert Einstein. Before I saw hit the unlike button, again wants to thank all RGP knowledge seekers for your active participation as always. See you again in the next session. Thank you.